So let's now move on from pseudopenises to the exploding variety. Enter the bee. With bees, it is the sole queen who in some varieties may obtain her throne by ruthlessly killing her rivals, who gets her choice of mates from among the male drones in the colony. Rare, dramatic, and violent, bee copulation, and the drone's life, ends when the male's genitalia explodes within the queen. Not seemingly bothered at her now dying partner, the queen simply moves on to the next in line and will continue to mate over a series of flights with up to a few dozen drones exploding inside her. The queen then stores their semen to be used to produce fertilized eggs over the rest of her life. Noteworthy, virgin queens are often treated by worker bees as a worker bee until she's mated with the drones. Once she's done this, it's much harder to transplant her to a new hive and have her survive the ordeal, as the existing worker bees may decide she's an invader trying to usurp their queen and will ball her to death. More on this rather interesting way of killing invaders in a bit. Also of note here, queen bees emit a distinct noise in the range of G sharp, known as quacking and tooting. When the queens are still in their queen cells, they'll often quack, then once they're out, they'll periodically toot. They'll do this most commonly when more than one queen is present in the hive, so it's thought this is some sort of way to announce themselves to any challenger. And speaking of bee mating, you may now be wondering what happens to the colony after the queen bee dies. Well, let's now look at the fascinating case of the honeybee, which creates a new queen bee as follows. Step 1. Bees construct up to 20 wax queen cells. Step 2. The current queen lays fertilized eggs in each queen cell, or in the case of the death of the queen, some existing eggs under 3 days old will be converted to queen cells by the method in the following step. Step 3. The young nurse bees feed the young queen larva with a special rich creamy food called royal jelly and extend the cell downwards until it's about 25 millimeters in length. Step 4, about 9 days after laying, the first queen cell is sealed with a layer of wax. Step 5, assuming a new queen is being made because of an overpopulation within the hive, a large swarm, called the prime swarm of bees, leaves the hive, led by the older bees. The old queen also gets starved, so she is thinner and able to fly with the swarm, and they go off scouting for a new place to create a colony. During their trip, the swarm will take frequent breaks to send out scouts to go search on their own. The scouts report back, and from this information, they choose the best spot to go next until they finally settle on an optimal location. Step 6, back in the hive, about a week later, the first of the new queens will leave her cell. The new queen will then either choose to locate and kill her sister potential queens by stinging them through the wax walls of their cells, or she'll take a small swarm and go start a new hive somewhere else, particularly if the hive is still somewhat crowded. If she leaves, then the next to emerge from her cell will make the same decision. Eventually, one will decide to stay. Step 7, the young queen flies around and orients herself to her new surroundings. Step 8, the queen will take several mating flights as previously described until she's satisfied with the amount of sperm she has. Step 9, a few days later, the mated queen will begin to lay fertilized eggs at a rate of about 2,000 per day. Fertilized eggs become female worker bees. Unfertilized eggs get fertilized by male drones and become new drones. At any given time in a healthy hive, there is one queen bee, up to 40,000 or so female worker bees, and a few hundred male drones. Step 10, this queen will stay with the colony for at least a year until a large enough swarm is available to go start a new colony somewhere else. Though the worker bees only live 40 or so days, and drone bees die in mating or are evicted from the hive in the autumn to conserve food as they do no actual work, the queen bee can live up to 5 years. And before we move on from honeybees, one of the more interesting bee facts we've come across over the years is how the bees keep their hives warm in the winter and how all of this relates to elements of their reproduction. Up until only a handful of years ago, it was generally thought that the honeybee hives were kept warm by pupae in the brood and that the bees would often congregate there to warm themselves up from the pupae. Recently, this was found not to be the case when a new honeybee job was discovered, that of the heater bee. Bees of almost all age can perform this function by either vibrating their abdomens, or they can also decouple their wings from their muscles, allowing them to vigorously use these muscles without actually moving their wings. This can heat their bodies up to about 111 degrees Fahrenheit or 44 degrees Celsius, which is about 16 degrees Fahrenheit or 9 degrees Celsius hotter than their normal. Another new discovery that went with this was why queen bees leave certain cells in the brood empty. It was previously thought that this was an undesirable quality of a queen, so queens that left fewer empty cells were sought out. In fact, though, these empty cells are essential to a healthy hive. Before the discovery of heater bees using infrared technology, it was thought that the bees that crawled in these empty cells were cleaning them out. What's actually happening is that the heater bee will crawl inside these cells to keep the surrounding cells at the proper temperature, able to warm a maximum of about 70 or so cells per heater bee. The heater bees can also directly regulate temperature in individual cells by standing over and pressing their thorax against the cell, something which scientists used to think was just the bees resting. But in reality, they are working their wing muscles extremely hard to heat up the cell with their heightened body temperature. And why they do this has to do with job distribution. Normally, honeybee jobs are primarily assigned, so to speak, based on their age. For instance, worker bees that are about 1 to 2 days old spend their time cleaning cells, starting with the one they were born in, as well as keeping the brood warm. From 3 to 5 days old, they feed older larvae. From 6 to 11 days old, they feed the youngest larvae. From 12 to 17 days old, they produce wax, build combs, carry food, and perform undertaker duties. From 8 to 21 days old, they get guard duty, protecting the hive entrance. From 22 days old until their death at around 40 to 45 days, they get to fly from the hive, collecting pollen, nectar, water, pollinating plants, and things of this nature. However, if the hive needs more bees that are naturally inclined towards housekeeping jobs or foraging, the heater bees can adjust the temperature of certain cells to accommodate this, raising the temperature of a cell to 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius rather than the normal cell temperature of about 93 degrees Fahrenheit or 34 degrees Celsius will produce bees that are more inclined to prefer foraging jobs over housekeeping ones and vice versa. So they'll be more reluctant or more eager to change jobs than other bees their age, depending on their former cell temperature. This helps make sure the needs of the colony can always be met given the current state of the hive and environment. Besides performing the task of heating the brood cells, heater bees, as mentioned earlier, also help regulate the overall temperature of the hive. This is essential as honeybees are cold-blooded, and once their body temperature drops below about 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius, they lose the ability to fly, which is why once the outside temperature drops below around 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius, you'll no longer see honeybees flying around as they're no longer capable of keeping their body temperature high enough for flight. If the temperature drops low enough, they lose the ability to move at all. So going back to keeping the hive warm, during winter, the bees all clump together towards the middle of the hive surrounding the queen. At this time, they allow the temperature of the hive to drop to around 81 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius on the inside of the cluster to conserve energy. Bees on the outer parts of the cluster, which will usually be around 48 degrees Fahrenheit or 9 degrees Celsius, then occasionally rotate with the bees on the more crowded inner parts so that all the bees can keep warm enough to survive. Once the queen starts laying again, the temperature of the inner part of the hive will be raised back up to around 93 degrees Fahrenheit or 34 degrees Celsius. In order to support the heater bees at their job, other bees are given the job of occasionally bringing food to them as the heater bees' energy starts to run low from their constant, vigorous use of their wing muscles or vibrating to generate heat. On top of that, certain species of honeybee will actually use this heating effect as a weapon against invading insects. For instance, when attacking wasps, such bees have been observed to surround the wasp in a ball and begin beating their wing muscles and vigorously vibrating. The combination of lack of oxygen for the wasp inside the ball and the drastically raised internal temperature will eventually kill the wasp. Honeybees will also use this heat-balling technique to kill a queen when necessary, such as when an invading queen comes into the hive or if the current queen is no longer capable of performing her duties and a new queen needs to be installed. Another fascinating honeybee fact is that they are better at some forms of very complex math than you, and they seem to vaguely understand that the world is round. So what's going on here? It turns out scientists have figured out how to interpret a honeybee's dance, something the bee uses to communicate where to find food, a new home, and things of this nature. More specifically, unlike ants that can follow pheromone trails left on the surface they walk, honeybees need a more explicit way to communicate locations of significant food sources, and they do so through the power of dance. This dance consists of bees walking around in circles and figure eights, sometimes with a waggle, or in other cases, there's also a version sometimes called the tremble dance with, funny enough, this latter seemingly induced not just to indicate there is a need to switch some bees from foraging to more bees receiving the nectar, but also if the bee just has consumed some ethanol during their foraging. But as for the round or waggle dance, this communicates both relatively precise direction and distance to the food source. The more energetically the bee does the dance also indicates the bee thinks it's a particularly large food source, and thus, when multiple bees are dancing, the other bees should pay more attention to them. Either way, the directions here are relative to the sun, and you may now see the issue already. These little dances can take a really long time, so the angle of the sun is going to have changed while they do the dance. Thus, while doing the dance, the bee actually calculates the change in angle based on where the sun is right now with respect to the hive. And fascinatingly, even if it's at night when they're doing the dance, they calibrate the angles to associate with where the sun is right now on the other side of the world. Likewise, when the bees are following the instructions and flying towards the food, they calibrate what they learned based on where the sun is right now versus when the instructions were given. As for distance, while they're going in circles, they wiggle their abdomens. The more wiggles, the greater the distance, although they also seem to adjust their wiggles based on if they think there might be danger at a given food source, such as if a dead bee is at the food source. And on top of that, they may release pheromones while they dance for presumably other communication purposes in it all. It's even been hypothesized that the bees are using electrical fields and the buildup in their bodies as they fly to communicate additional information, or perhaps help a given bee get listened to in the first place. On that note, other foraging bees may ignore the dancing bees and just use their own experience about good food source areas around their hive, or simply search about randomly. But a percentage will follow where the dancing bees are indicating.